The United States, Europe and Canada have affirmed their readiness to provide the assurance that Ukraine needs to be able to forge a peace with Russia. The members of the Coalition of the Willing made encouraging progress on these guarantees when they met last month in Paris. I was at that meeting, and so was President Zelensky. Some European allies have announced that they will deploy troops to Ukraine after a deal is reached. Troops on the ground, jets in the air, ships on the Black Sea.
This is my video update on this Tuesday midday, February the 3rd, coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with a massive Russian missile strike into Ukraine yesterday, with 85 missiles launched into Ukraine in a single day, which would be a record. 86 missiles in one single day into Ukraine. And we're talking about a mix of missiles, mostly Iskanders, but also Kalibra missiles and other Russian missiles that were fired into Ukraine yesterday, hitting military infrastructure, hitting the energy infrastructure, smashing the energy infrastructure in multiple regions and cities, including Kiev. And the Ukraine air defense systems were a no-show. They were unable to deal with the massive Russian missile onslaught, and the collective West media and the very smart analysts, the military analysts in the collective West, they were claiming that Putin was begging Trump for a one-week ceasefire because his military was shattered and depleted. His missile stockpiles were depleted, and they needed a ceasefire in order to figure out what to do with their crumbling military. This is what the collective West media and all the very smart analysts were writing about. Just 2-3 days ago, the Telegraph was saying that Russia's military's in shambles. They are in absolute shambles. And yesterday we got the largest missile strike in a single day into Ukraine. Here's an article from just 2 days ago. The headline reads, "Russia has run out of missiles. New information about the energy truce has emerged. There is talk online of a sudden decision to halt Russian energy strikes, but it is likely that Russia has simply run out of missiles after a period of intensive use." You know, they lie about the energy truce. Trump told the media a live press conference, Trump tells the media that he's the one that contacted Putin and asked for an energy truce, for a one-week truce. This is what Trump said. But the media, they decide to lie about it, and they claim that it was Russia and it was Putin that asked Trump for a one-week energy truce. And they not only lie about that, but they then go on to lie about Russia's missile stockpiles and Russia's military in shambles. And that is why Putin begged Trump for a one-week truce. So lie after lie. And what happens yesterday? Russia fires 85 plus missiles, not drones, missiles into Ukraine. So that was the big news from yesterday. We'll get a report, I imagine, by the end of the day from the Russian Ministry of Defense as to the exact targets and the exact number of missiles that were fired into Ukraine. The Financial Times is reporting that Ukraine, the US, and the EU, they have agreed to a multi-tier plan for enforcing any ceasefire with Russia. In other words, they have agreed to the security guarantees. Not Russia, not Russia, Ukraine, the US, and the EU and Europe. They've negotiated amongst themselves, between each other, and they've agreed on the security guarantees without Russia. And this is what the Financial Times is reporting. And the security guarantees that they've agreed on is basically that that if Russia invades Ukraine or attacks Ukraine, then the US and Europe, the coalition of the willing, and the United States, they will attack Russia within 72 hours. They will retaliate against Russia within 72 hours. That's the agreement on the security guarantees between Ukraine, the US, and Europe. Russia not included, and Russia's going to reject this deal that the Green Goblin and his collective West puppet masters have put together. It would probably be helpful if they talked to Russia about these things before agreeing on them. But anyway, in the event of a repeated invasion by Russia, the West and the USA should go to war within 72 hours. These are the details of the security guarantees for Kiev. And it's a three-phase approach. Phase one is that in 24 hours after the violation, a diplomatic warning will be issued. Phase two, if the fighting continues, a large-scale response involving a coalition of the willing is launched. And phase three, if the violation escalates into a large-scale invasion, a military response from the EU and the USA would be launched 72 hours after the first attack. Basically, these security guarantees that they agreed on is a guarantee for World War III. That's basically what they've put together, what they've cobbled together, which Russia will reject. They've already rejected these kinds of things 1,000 freaking times, but they still meet with each other. The U.S. and the Green Goblin and the EU, they still hold their little meetings and their events and their conferences, and they agree to these things and they announce these things, and the collective West media reports on these agreements. And then Russia comes back and says, what are you guys talking about? We're never going to agree to this. We've said 1,000 times we'll never agree to this. So buzz off. Anyway, that is the update there from the Financial Times. Trump, he announced that he spoke with Modi, and he announced that they have agreed on a U.S.-India trade deal. Again, I thought they agreed on a trade deal. I thought they've agreed to 20 trade deals. I don't know. I'm losing track of all the times Trump has spoken with Modi and announced that the U.S. and India have agreed to a trade deal. Anyway, Trump says they agreed to a trade deal, and U.S. tariffs are going to be lowered for India from 25% to 18%, certain tariffs that Trump had in place, Liberation Day tariffs. And then Trump announced on Truth Social that India is going to possibly stop buying Russian oil. Again, he's announced this like 100 times, hasn't he? That India is going to stop purchasing Russian oil. Trump said, we spoke about many things, including trade and ending the war with Russia and Ukraine. He, in reference to Modi, agreed to stop buying Russian oil and to buy much more from the United States and potentially Venezuela. This would help end the war in Ukraine, which is taking place right now. If I had $1 for every time Trump said that India is going to stop purchasing Russian oil, I'd have $100 or $101. Not bad. But Modi, he posted on X about the call with Trump and the trade deal, and he mentioned nothing about agreeing to stop purchasing Russian oil. Not one mention of agreeing to stop purchasing Russian oil. Modi posted, "Wonderful to speak with my dear friend President Trump today. Delighted that made in India products will now have a reduced tariff of 18%. Big thanks to President Trump on behalf of the 1.4 billion people of India for this wonderful announcement." And then Modi went on to praise Trump and his leadership, but zero mention of agreeing to stop purchasing Russian oil. So I think Trump is not telling the truth. That's what I think is going on. But maybe Modi agreed. Maybe Modi did agree to stop purchasing Russian oil, though I doubt it. Maybe Modi personally agreed to stop purchasing Russian oil. Maybe he told Trump, look, me as Modi, I'm going to stop buying Russian oil. India, well, that's a whole different scenario. But you have my word, President Trump. Me as Modi, as the leader of India, I'm not going to purchase any Russian oil. Okay, I like it. I like that, Mr. Modi. I like it a lot. If you like this video, hit the like button. Also, share this video and subscribe to this channel. I like that, Modi. I like him a whole lot. So the collective West mainstream media, they are in a panic over the Epstein files. Big time panic. They are in such a panic that they are running article after article after article, trying to connect Epstein to Russia. Yesterday, they ran so many articles, not only from the UK, but also from the US mainstream media, trying to create some sort of Epstein-Putin connection. Epstein was somehow a Russian agent, a Russian super spy working for Putin, and he had all kinds of honey traps set up and blackmailing of politicians. They have zero evidence for this, zero documentation that links Putin to Epstein or links Russia to Epstein. And they have the small problem, it's just a small problem, just a tiny problem of the correspondence between Epstein and his associates, where they're trying to regime change Putin in 2014. But that's just a minor obstacle for the collective West media. They don't even talk about that communication, those emails. But they are in a panic to try and create some sort of Russia-Epstein connection. When they are panicked, when they are afraid, and when all of their propaganda has failed, or their ability to suppress the Epstein documents, to not release and to hide the Epstein documents, when all of this has failed, you have to go to Russia. You got to blame Russia, right? When all else fails, just blame Russia. That's what they said. They were sitting in a room, all of the globalists, and when they started to throw out all of these ideas as to what to do with the Epstein emails, crap, we got these Epstein files. They're going to expose us. What do we do? Let's try this. No, that's not going to work. Let's not release it. No, that's not going to work. Let's call up Pam and Dan and Cash, see what they can do. We already tried that. That didn't work. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? I got it. I got it. Whoa. What's your idea? It's Russia. I like it. I like it. Russia. Yes. Yes, let's just go with Russia. Russia. All right, call Rupert. Call up all of our mainstream media vassals. I forgot the word. Call up all of our mainstream media lackeys, and tell them to start running a Putin Epstein angle to all of this. So anyway, yesterday we had the New York Post. It was their turn to try and create some fantasy Putin, Russia, Epstein connection. And they ran an article with the title, "Email Reveals New Theory About Who Jeffrey Epstein Was Really Working For." Oh my God. Who was he really working for? Please tell us, New York Post. Who was Epstein really working for, right? Because there's all kinds of people talking about who they believe Epstein was working for, and there's all kinds of emails and communication from Epstein himself saying who he's working for. But New York Post, you tell us who he's really working for. Okay, and we can trust the New York Post because they're the second oldest publication in the United States. So we can definitely trust the New York Post. And the New York Post reveals that Epstein might have, possibly, maybe, been working for Putin. Da, da, da. Oh my God, really? Oh no. Oh no. Wow, that's a new one. Who could have come up with that one? Anyway, the New York Post, they talked about, they repeated the emails that I talked about yesterday, the communication with Igor and the Japanese entrepreneur, for which the Daily Mail admitted that there was no connection between Putin and Russia, and that all of the meetings that Epstein alleged that he had with Putin never took place or were canceled. This is what the Daily Mail actually admits to in their article. If you go beyond the title and the headline, they actually admit that no meetings took place. But forget about that. That's not important. And in the New York Post, they basically repeat much of what the Daily Mail reported on, the propaganda from the Daily Mail. And they added another spin to their reporting. And this is what the New York Post claims. They say that in an email to former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, Epstein claimed Putin had tried to set up a meeting with him, which he had turned down. Quote, Putin asked that I meet him in St. Petersburg, the same time as his economic conference. I told him no. If he wants to meet, he will need to set aside real time and privacy. Let's see what happens, Epstein wrote. Right. So let me understand this. Let me just try to understand what's going on according to the New York Post. According to Collective West mainstream media, Epstein is working for Russia. So he's working for Putin. Epstein is a KGB Putin super spy. And Putin begs Epstein for a meeting. The event that Epstein doesn't remember as he's messaging the former Prime Minister Barak is most likely the St. Petersburg Economic Forum, but Epstein doesn't know the name. He just writes St. Petersburg in all lowercase. But his boss, that would make Putin Epstein's boss, because according to the Collective West, Epstein is working for Putin as his spy. So Putin begs Epstein for a meeting, and Epstein, who works for Putin and works for the Kremlin, according to them, says no. No. Nope. He tells Putin, Epstein tells Putin, if he wants to meet, he will need to set aside real time and privacy. Let's see what happens. Right. Putin is messaging Epstein, asking for a meeting. The president of Russia, who is his boss, according to them, is asking for a meeting, and Epstein is turning him down. Epstein says, no, I turned him down. I said, no. No, I want real time, Mr. Putin, private, real time, not some meeting at some conference or some event. Oh, wow. Wow. So that's the New York Post, everybody. U.S. President Trump thought it would be a good idea to go after Thomas Massie. Again, how many times has he gone after Thomas Massie? The man, one of the people who got the Epstein files released. He was one of the people in the U.S. government, along with Ro Khanna and Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, they were the ones pushing for the Epstein files to be released, and they succeeded in that push. So Trump thought it would be a good idea to go after Thomas Massie. What terrible timing from the U.S. president. What a terrible look from Trump. Who is advising Trump on his communications? Who is his communications director or his media director, his PR team? Who are these people that are advising Trump and that thought it would be a good idea now with all of the Epstein uproar? It would be the right time to go after Thomas Massie. Wow. What a terribly timed post from Trump on Truth Social. Here's what Trump said. People are saying that Thomas Massie became a liberal because his new wife, blessed be their marriage, is supposedly a radical left flamethrower. This new union all went so fast that maybe he didn't know what he was getting into. But nevertheless, he is an absolutely terrible and unreliable Republican. Perhaps a rhino, or maybe even worse. Ed Galrine, whoever, a farmer and war hero, is running against Massie. He is a high-quality individual, and there is no candidate for Congress that could be better. He is running because he realizes Thomas Massie has been totally disloyal to the President of the United States and the Republican Party. He never votes for us. He always goes with the Democrats. Thomas Massie is a complete and total disaster. We must make sure he loses. Big. That's in all caps. What a terrible look for Trump. What terrible timing for Trump to go after Massie. Terrible freaking timing for Trump to go after Massie and to push for Massie's election loss, for his removal from Congress. So Thomas Massie, and he goes after Thomas Massie's wife as well. Anyway, Thomas Massie posted on X in reply to this message from Trump. So now he's attacking my wife, who voted for him 3 times. Maybe someone told him she's actually the one who suggested I ask Pam Bondi in person at a dinner when he would get phase 2 of the Epstein files. Bondi said there were no more files. As they say, the rest is history. Massie just crushed Trump, and he just crushed Bondi. That was a crushing response from Massie to Trump. And a crushing response to Bondi, calling out Bondi, referencing Bondi's statements where she says there are no more files. That's it. There's nothing to see here. That was an easy one for Massie. That was an easy W for Massie. Handed to him by Trump on a silver platter. Anyway, that is the Trump Massie row. Shouldn't Trump be working hard to get rid of Lindsey Graham? How about that? How about Trump starts posting about Lindsey Graham losing the elections? That would be much better than trying to remove Massie. So sticking with Trump, he claims that there are going to be talks. There are going to be talks between Iran and the United States. He claims that we could be close to a deal. But Trump also, in his usual style, he says that if there is no deal or agreement with Iran, then things can get very, very bad. But we do have confirmation that this Friday, there will be talks between the Iranian Foreign Minister Arakchi and Special Envoy Witkoff in Turkey. Turkey is going to be mediating these talks on Friday in Istanbul. Now, last time Witkoff and Arakchi were in talks, they progressed fairly well. They actually got very far in their discussions, to the point where they were discussing technical issues. And they were very close to some sort of an agreement. They were on talk number 7. And then Trump launched the attack against Iran. They actually were having their 7th talk on a Thursday or Friday. And then I believe that's Saturday or Sunday, 1 or 2 days later, Trump decided to launch his attack. So here we are again with another Witkoff-Araghchi talk. Trump claims that they're close to a deal. Will we get a deal? Or will it be a rerun of what happened last time? Diplomacy is happening, and then Trump uses his foreign policy trickery, the distraction of diplomacy to launch a strike into Iran. Is he going to go with that playbook, which he is using over and over again? Anyway, we will see this Friday on a weekend. That's troubling because Trump likes to launch the attacks on weekends. So that's the news with Iran. And do I have anything else? No, I think we can do a clown world now. So today's clown world, once again, is courtesy of Stunning and Brave, Kaya Kallas. What can I say? She's on a roll. She is on a generational run, as they like to say. She's on a freaking roll when it comes to the clown world segment. And from her statements that she made yesterday, I talked about this yesterday. She was speaking at some conference, some security conference. I believe the Munich Security Conference is actually coming up in a couple of weeks. So now we have all of these conferences that are taking place in Europe in the run-up to the big one, which is the Munich Security Conference. That's going to be interesting. We're going to get a lot of clown worlds from that one. But Kaya Kallas yesterday, she talked about how Russia has attacked 19 countries. Okay, blah blah blah, and then she said that there can be no peace, no negotiations until Russia disarms, until they limit their military power and limit their nuclear power and limit their military budget. Those are the demands that Kallas has of Russia if there's going to be any kind of negotiations and talks. Anyway, during that same speech, that same statement that she was making yesterday, she said that the rules-based international order was nothing but an illusion. It was all an illusion. It has always been the law of the jungle. Whoever is strong takes everything. A rules-based world order has always been an illusion. And then Kallas went on to say that even in the jungle, animals are capable of cooperation, or animals can get along, something like that. I'll play you the video.
There's an argument that actually, the international rules-based order has been an illusion. It has been always law of the jungle, who has the might takes what they want. But even in jungle, you have, animals cooperating.
Yep.
And I really see that, we are in this situation where we have to really develop this international law further with those countries who want the rules-based order.
We come full circle, actually. We're back to Jungle Joseph Borrell, who was the foreign minister of the EU before Kaya Kallas. You see, Borrell had it right. Borrell understood what was going on. We're the garden and the world is the jungle. Jungle Joseph Borrell, everybody. He was talking about the jungle. Then Kallas came in and started to talk about he was talking about the garden and the jungle, and the EU is the beautiful garden, and the rest of the world is the awful jungle. And then Kallas came in and started to talk about the rules-based order. The rules-based order. How dare Russia go against the rules-based order? They're tearing apart the rules-based order. Trump is tearing apart the rules-based order. How dare they? We must have the rules-based order, said Stunning and Brave. And now she's saying it's the jungle. It's just the law of the jungle. But you know what? Animals in the jungle, every now and then, they do get along. They do know how to cooperate. Sometimes the lion cooperates with the zebra. Sometimes the lion doesn't want to eat the zebra, and sometimes the lion says, Mr. Zebra, let's work together. Sometimes the alligator cooperates with the turtle. Sometimes the alligator and the turtle, they get along. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of animals in the jungle. Sometimes they work together, like a cartoon, right? Anyway. Oh boy, that's the video. theduran.locals.com. We're on X, we're on Rumble, we're on Telegram. Go to Duran Shop, pick up some merch. 26% off everything on the Duran Shop, in the Duran Shop. And go to our Substack as well. Check us out on Substack. Link is in the description box down below. I will see everybody tomorrow. Take care.